Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy. Did I start the audio recording? I did. Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I'm your disheveled goblin host, Daniel Greene, and today we actually have a selection of fantasy news I am extremely excited to get into. And starting with the new 2025 format, I'm going to put my two favorite stories right here at the beginning, starting with our first look at the show I am most excited to watch this year, and we have had a release date confirmed for this year, and that would be our first look at Murderbot by Martha Wells. And I do not mean this to sound like as much of a criticism as it's going to, but this is not how I pictured Murderbot at all, yet I'm still excited that we have like an A-list actor taking on this role, and even more importantly than that, in my opinion, is we have Apple TV Plus, the worst named streaming service in existence, adapting the novellas, which, if you have not read the Murderbot series, I would consider them the highest quality sci-fi novella series in the last 2 decades. And I'll stand by that until someone mentions something in the comments that I forgot. Anyway, I've binged a lot of Apple TV Plus shows recently, and while they do certainly have some stinkers, many of their shows, even if they have a weaker season 1, do actually improve from there, and they also have some of the most knock-it-out-of-the-park shows I've come across recently, including Shrinking, which I highly recommend, especially if you're a Harrison Ford fan. For those of you who do not know, Murderbot follows a socially anxious, you guessed it, murderbot, who has become able to overcome their programming and is seeking answers to a mystery as well as purpose in the universe while also continuing to serve their clients. And most excitingly from all of this is we have a premiere date confirmed of the first 2 episodes for May 16th, and you will absolutely be getting a review here. And it will be premiering weekly through July 11th. Now, there is immediately a casting controversy around this, not only because Murderbot is something that uses its pronouns instead of he, she, but on top of that, Murderbot is directly coded to be neurodivergent within the book. And so the discussion around that has been complex and nuanced for sure. I would be lying if I said like I'm not excited to see an actor of Alexander Skarsgård's caliber take it on, but I also understand the disappointment in terms of representation. How well it's going to work out though, we have to just wait and see. But this is going to take me to my next favorite story of the day, and that is because it involves a medium of adaptation we don't usually see here in the science fiction fantasy space. And excitingly, it is for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yes, the first book in the Narnia series, though it is not Greta Gerwig's upcoming live-action adaptation series of movies, and instead, this is actually going to be a stage play adaptation going on over at the Academy of Arts Logos Theater. And this will be a traveling show that is going to Washington, D.C., Branson, Maryland, back to Washington, D.C., a location that is yet to be announced, and South Carolina. And beyond just me being a theater fan, I'm also really excited to see that they are using these big puppets for some of the roles. I am a massive live action prop design nerd ever since I was a little kid and watched Alien and the creature design there. Seeing just how imaginative bringing creatures and beasts to life, whether in movies, shows, plays, has always been something that has drawn me to watching or experiencing any form of art. And that Aslan puppet they have, holy smokes, and as well as the costuming we're seeing in this preview, just looks really great. I'm sad to see that this is actually going to be in a location I used to live, but do not currently. That sucks. But hopefully this will be made available to see widely for audiences and fans of C.S. Lewis's epic ASAP. But tickets are available now. And then, oh my god, are you excited for some book cover reveals? Because this is, and I mean this, hands down, the best lineup of book covers we have ever had revealed here in fantasy news. Also fun news, I finally splurged and got blue light glasses that are supposed to be non-reflective, so you guys don't have to see like lights in my eyes the whole time, except I can't see clearly enough that they're actually working. I hope they are.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
But for the cover of the final book in the Sun Eater series, Shadows Upon Time, we have gotten this cover. And if you're looking for the religious imagery and metaphors to continue in the Sun Eater series, This is promising it will. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this also does look like the most book-accurate depiction of Hadrian Marlowe on any of the covers I've seen yet. And this is with cover art by Frieren Coming, who, fun note, has also done some stupendous work for Magic the Gathering. And Shadows Upon Time is set to be released November 18th of 2025. But that is not the biggest name in the science fiction space who is releasing a cover this week. Sorry, Christopher, to say it, but we have also gotten a cover reveal from Adrian Tchaikovsky. Okay, I want to get this right. Adrian Tchaikovsky? Thank you. Because we have also gotten a cover reveal for Adrian Tchaikovsky for Bee Speaker, where Adrian said, I have been given permission to reveal the upcoming Bee Speaker, Book 3 of the Dogs of War series, coming this June. Mad Max futures, Martian invasions, mad lizards, fungus witches, and embattled monks, none of which are quite what they seem. Unfortunately, I could not find an artist credit anywhere, but I do love this one, and if anyone knows who did this, let me know in the comments down below, and I will add it to the pinned comment. I don't think it's talked about enough just how prolific Adrian is as an author. Like, this guy is putting out books that are consistently getting insanely positive reviews every few months, it seems. Not every, like at least bi-yearly, by meaning twice a year, not every other year. But Philip Chase has also given us a cover reveal for While Darkness Gathers, with art by Tall Shepherd, and this is a sequel to the Eden trilogy, set to be released June 21st of 2025. And then, I hate to say it, I'm even gonna do a dramatic glass takeoff. I'm sorry this happened, Jay Kristoff, but we have had a cover leaked for the next book in the Empire of the Vampire series for Empire of the Dawn. And this is with art by Jason Chen. It absolutely sucks when stuff leaks like this, as we recently covered with Dungeon Crawler Carl, and the least I can say, though, is this cover is banging. I haven't read this series yet. I actually don't think I've read anything by Jay Kristoff. I don't think so. Dirty liar! I want to, and this cover is just, it's hot. As Will Smith would say, that's hot. Y'all, I just closed out of like 3 book cover reveals because there's just too many, and I still have a bunch to get through. God damn. But if none of those have been your style, I'm happy to bring you a more colorful, distinct style, because if you're looking for a deluxe edition for a T. Kingfisher book, we are getting a drop from Macmillan for a deluxe edition of Swordheart by T. Kingfisher. And this kind of like symmetrical, super colorful design not only is going to do a great job in standing out on the shelf, but damn, it just delivers a vibe. I've not read this, but I feel like, well, it's going to be available all over the place, apparently Amazon, Target, etc., etc. But on top of that, it delivers a vibe that I'm like, all right, I really feel like I know what reading that book is going to be like, and it'll be kind of in that fairy tale vibe. How wrong am I, T. Kingfisher fans? Probably a little. Then we have gotten a very exciting update for fans of Joe Abercrombie, and specifically the Broken Bindings special editions, because they have released their souped up edition for Joe Abercrombie's upcoming release of The Devils. And God, I know the fiery background, shadowy figure cover is a bit overplayed. I won't fight you on that, but I will say, this is one of the best executions of it. Broken Binding, you're hit or miss with me, but when you hit, hot damn! And this is with art from Jod Illustrated. In the most competitive week of fantasy cover reveals possibly ever, I will give you the honor of second best cover reveal. And yeah, it's not the best yet, because the final one we're going to be getting into here, it wins. It wins! But before we get to that favorite cover of the day, we have one more that is in serious contention, and that is going to be because HarperCollins has released a special edition, or is going to be releasing September 9th, a special edition of Howl's Moving Castle. And I cannot believe this is an even more vibrant cover art than the last one from T. Kingfisher we talked about. The colors, they're going hard this week. Unfortunately, HarperCollins did not credit a cover artist, and I was unable to find one. Same thing as before. But now, let us get into what is easily my favorite cover reveals of the week. And it's for a series that has had a few different cover reveals for it in recent memory. And this is a full series with a fancy spine set up for it. And that is going to be because one of the fantasy series I respect the most, the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu, has been announced to be getting all of these new covers you are seeing on screen now. And yes, I think the actual covers are fantastic. This art style, the more I look at it, the more it's winning me over. But the art by Ravina Kai, what absolutely ties it together and makes it just spectacular to me is what is done here with the spines. No notes. Perfection. Now, I want to pull your attention, audience, to not just the elegant, soft lines contrasting with the harsh cuts between the covers, but also point out that this is actually representative of the tone and themes of the series as a whole, because yes, there is this almost graphite-esque dark overall aesthetic, but it is continually contrasted within each illustration by these cores of light from important symbols within the series, each one kind of enticing the reader to wonder what comes next in each entry of the Dandelion Dynasty. It is exquisite, as cover art truly should be, and representing the soul of the story within. It makes those who have said don't judge a book by its cover weep. This, I dare say, is art. I still love this set, but I don't have book 4 in that set. And I don't know if I can get book 4 in that set, so I might swap it for this set. I don't know. And also shout out Patrick Leo for being able to do this reveal. I know how much this series means to you, so just congratulations on being a part of like another step in the Dandelion Dynasty's evolution. If you've read the books, you know that's perfect. But this is going to take us out of the cover reveal news and into, would it be an episode of Fantasy News in 2025 without a tech company doing something to make us all a little bit mad? I really like that I can do that now. And that is because Amazon is going to be making their Kindle product worse. We have seen that starting February 26, 2025, Amazon is removing a feature from its website, allowing you to download purchase books to a computer and then copy them manually to a Kindle over USB. It's a feature that a lot of Kindle users are probably not even aware of, given books can be more easily sent to devices over Wi-Fi, but it's especially useful for backing up purchases or converting them to other formats compatible with non-Kindle e-readers. And it's just one more step towards consumer unfriendliness. And this is how they chip away at it. They use stuff that, like, yeah, 85% of Kindle users never bother with this, but some people save money by doing this, but it's also costing Amazon a little bit. So let's just cut that out, because 85% of people won't care. This is a great time for me to remind you that Kobo offers a similar product, one that I would argue can even be better in some ways. They've helped me raise money for orphans. And on top of that, you're not supporting Amazon by using it. Just gonna put that out there, my guy. And having to retake one of the worst parts of this, it also makes it much harder to pull anything purchased through the Kindle store off of the device and then convert it to wanting to use on any other device for your own convenience. And it'll make it more difficult to sideload any books you've purchased through other ecosystems into your Kindle. Just trying to make that whole Apple-only type environment, except for, reading. And what makes this even worse, though, is occasionally Kindle has removed books from their online store, which will then be removed remotely from your device. But if you've already copied them over to a computer, you would then not be losing a book you've paid for just because it's been removed from the Kindle store. They're making sure now that can't be done. The more I've looked into this situation, the worse it's actually looking. Now, don't get me wrong, you've never actually owned the ebooks you purchased through the Kindle store. Much like music you used to buy online, you are technically just licensing it, and Amazon's always been able to take it away if they really wanted to. Except there's been a loophole where you could back it up on your device and still keep it no matter what they did. They are trying to take that away. And in the general shift in the ebook space, this seems like it's happening at too coincidental of a time not to be looked at more skeptically. In the day and age of physical media becoming more and more cherished and online business models wanting to force you into a subscription service more than ever, Amazon is seeing a rise in the competition of the ebook space. And before they have to fight any more of an even battlefield, they want to lock in as much of their customer base as possible to being totally dependent and used to using the Kindle ecosystem. If you do not want to get locked into this, I know it seems like a very big ask, but it just kind of seems to be the truth Amazon is forcing. I would highly advise you to, unfortunately, back up all of your ebooks from your Kindle, convert them to a general format that can be used on other devices before this goes into effect February 26th, sell your Kindle, and pick up a different e-reader device, if you really care about this. Obviously, you could be totally happy buying into the Kindle subscription model, and if that's the case, totally fine. But just know, Amazon seems to be trying to lock the door behind you as aggressively as possible. And if you look into it, believe it or not, there are still genuinely good actors in the e-reader space who don't seem to be trying to lock anyone into specifically one environment. And once again, I will say I've had a great experience with Kobo, and no, they're not paying me to say that. I just genuinely like them as e-readers. And while I cannot say this factually now, I would safely bet that in a few years, you are going to be paying for ebooks in a more similar model to Spotify than anything else if Amazon has their way, rather than actually owning the books you read in any real capacity. And their model will be dependent on charging you every month and similar to an Audible fashion, rather than letting you, quote unquote, even in the limited way you do now, own an ebook.
And I feel like this is something that just like crosses all bounds of society, and it's just everyone can be equally annoyed by these anti-consumer practices that just do nothing but chip away small little pennies from consumers because they know you will not be mad enough to make a big stink. So I am here to make an appropriately big stink now. But there are still some companies who are willing to do something on the side of the consumer, believe it or not. And that takes us to our next story, because Steam is apparently going to be banning all games that require watching advertisements to play. And this is further clarified with, the page explains that Steam does not contain paid advertising and that advertising-based revenue models are not allowed on the platform. It further states that developers are also prohibited from using advertising as a way to provide value to players, such as giving players an in-game reward for watching or engaging with ads. Now, what's interesting about this story is apparently Steam has had a rule that explicitly states this for at least 5 years, but plenty of games have still just been doing it on the platform, and what's happened is Steam has just kind of made the rule more prominently displayed, which is leading many to speculate that they're going to start cracking down on games that are violating this policy, because it's become somewhat of an issue for games to massively discount themselves on Steam, only for people to buy them and realize that the game they bought at a discount is now flooded with ads they have to watch to play it. And if there's like one company that like should not be able to maintain a stranglehold of market like they do, it should be Steam, because they are the most just consumer-friendly, return a game, we do not care type market. But it goes to prove, if you just earn that consumer trust, it goes so far, because nearly every friend of mine, at least, of course, this is just a anecdotal example, but every friend I have that's into gaming has gone away from consoles, is on PC, and will only buy games from Steam because of how much cheaper they tend to be there. The return policy is fantastic, and they know Steam is not in the business of screwing over their customers. But in some fun quickie news, SpongeBob SquarePants is set to overtake Arthur as the longest running animated kids show of all time. Is that even fantasy news? I do not know, I just thought it was interesting.
And in some rather massive last-minute fantasy news updates, it seems Kathleen Kennedy is officially stepping down after a 13-year run as the president of Lucasfilms by the end of the year. Dark Horse Digital is also shutting down, and despite what you may have seen floating around the internet, yes, the Dark Tower adaptation is still happening, but no, Stephen King is not writing for it.
And this next story just allows me to recommend a phenomenal show to my audience, especially those who might be hesitant to watch an animated show, because I consider this to be one of the most great entries to the medium as a whole, in terms of not having a lot of the anime-isms that turn people off, while just telling a, regardless of what medium it's being told through, incredible story. And that is because it has now been announced that Frieren Beyond Journey's End is going to be coming to Netflix March 1st. Frieren tells a story from the perspective of an essentially immortal elf who is just unbelievably powerful in the world they walk in. And because of that, there is this feeling of time sliding throughout the narrative, and the themes of the show are about the importance of these smaller moments in your life versus the grand narrative of it through these immortal eyes. And it is one of the most cozy fantasy series I've come across, while also being one of the most just emotionally evocative. I have this whole rant about it where I walk through the show. It's genuinely like a 9 out of 10 for me. One of the best animes I've seen, full stop. But while we're talking about animated shows, we have also had to confirm that a new series is coming to the Avatar: The Last Airbender franchise that will span 2 seasons over 26 half-hour episodes. It'll be titled Avatar 7
Havens.
And it'll be following earthbending twins after a world-shattering disaster where one discovers she is the new Avatar after Korra. I want to clarify though, I've seen 2 conflicting ways this is being reported in 2 separate articles. One states the way it phrases it like directly after Korra, while the other says like sometime after Korra, so possibly there is like an Avatar between or not. We don't know. My personal thoughts on this though are, I need the Avatar franchise to rest a little bit more before I get hyper excited about another series coming to it. It seems to be one of these franchises that's falling into the just milk it till it bleeds territory, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. That being said though, I still have an immense reverence for the original series. I know there have been tons of supplementary material that fans do love in the form of books. It's just, we've over the last few years gotten a lot of a promised additional series, and things for Avatar, and the range and quality, especially on the game front, has just been lacking. Though, this next piece of Avatar news, I am a bit more excited for, and that is because a collaboration between Avatar: The Last Airbender and, believe it or not, Magic: The Gathering has been announced, set to be released November 21st. And it is so early on in production, I cannot bring you much more than that. But a Magic: The Gathering collaboration that's been announced that's further along in production to the point where we're actually getting a look at what the boxes are going to look like. Final Fantasy is also going to be releasing on June 13th, a collaboration with Magic: The Gathering, and we have gotten our first look at some cards, as well as a whole bunch of the pre-built Commander decks. And this is the definition of a situation where, I am a Magic: The Gathering fan now. Unfortunately, I've been infected with that over the last years, but Final Fantasy has just never been my thing at all. So I just, for the outside, for the fans looking in, I go, neat. Good for y'all. And in an update to a story we covered a few weeks ago here on the channel, do you remember how Meta just apparently was suddenly pirating millions of books and stuff from other authors and just stealing so much data to train their own AI? Well, one of their legal responses to this coming out, because they can't even deny it anymore, they did do that, is apparently Meta defends using pirated material, claiming it's legal if you don't seed content, which is essentially saying it's legal if you don't re-upload it. So they're saying they used it to train an AI, they're not sharing it, so it's Meta. What the fuck is this argument? What? To make it clear, this is like the equivalent of someone pirating a whole bunch of music and being like, well, I didn't play it for anybody else. I don't even need to take apart that argument. That's just a fucking horrible argument. I guess this means we're all welcome to pirate stuff from Meta as well to train our own programs, as long as we don't seed it to anybody. That's the logical conclusion you come to from this. And then before we get into the final news story of the day, yes, I've been made aware that the next season of The Wheel of Time has had a whole lot of content released in anticipation for coming out in the next few weeks. But unfortunately, I am not going to be covering that here in Fantasy News because I believe it needs its own dedicated video that you will hopefully be getting later this week. I don't want to just like do a little brief overview. I want to get into the meat of it. So that's what we'll be doing as the week continues on. But in the final piece of Fantasy News we're covering here, one of my favorite shows of recent memory has officially had its Season 2 premiere date released, and that is going to be The Last of Us. Season 2 is officially going to be coming out April 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on HBO Max. Which, are we just shortening that to Max? Do I need to say just Max? It's coming out 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Max. Nope, don't like that. On HBO Max. But now, let's go ahead and promote a book written by one of you here in the Goblin Horde.
And today's Indie Pub promo is The Stonesinger Chronicles by Adam Ganong. Pitched as The Stonesinger Chronicles is an episodically released epic fantasy audiobook with sound effects and a custom orchestral score available for free on Spotify. Whisper is a young street thief who'd rather read than steal. Tali is an absent-minded orphan with an uncanny memory and a penchant for making trouble. Aphir is their teacher, a brilliant mage of dubious intentions. These unwilling partners find themselves bound in their journey, but before they can even leave the confines of Lakewall, troubles rise. Never mind breaking the mold and becoming mages. First, they need to survive.
But this has just been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.